In this tutorial, we will have a look how we can make this player dash as you can notice. And before I jump into the coding part, I want to thanks Brain Burn for donating me on Patreon. And if you guys want to do, then you can check that out my Patreon page. And by uh, taking membership, you will unlock many benefits. And also make sure you check out my Udemy courses I will have in the description on Unity 6 with C# programming. So now let's dive into this tutorial. So for that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a script. So let's head over to this project app assets and then right click create mono behavior script, and you can name that script to something like player task. I already created a script and I have it in my script folder. So make sure you select your player game object in the hierarchy and select the script which is player task as you recently created. So make sure you select that and drag it over to this add component section in the inspector by selecting this player game object in the hierarchy. Now we're gonna open up our player task script by double clicking on it, and we need some variable. So in order to make the basically our task, we need a reference to this rigid body 2D component of this player game object, because this rigid body 2D component is responsible for velocity. So that's why we need a reference to it, and we need some variables. So let's open up our script by double clicking on it, and let's go to top of our class, and we're gonna grab the reference first, and we also need some other variables. So we're gonna make a public, and the component we're looking for is a rigid body 2D, and we can call this one simply something like RB. And we also need the dash duration. So let's make a public float, and this will be dash duration, dash duration, dash duration. And by default I'm gonna give a value something like 0.3f, a smaller number. And we also need to keep track of that if we dashing or not. So we're gonna make a private bool parameter, just gonna keep track of if we dashing or not. So it doesn't need to be public, so we can make this one private, and this will be bool, and we can call this one is dashing. So let's call it is dashing, and let's close that up with semicolon. And also we need to keep track of which direction this player game object is facing. So as you can notice, it's facing to the right direction. So we're gonna create a parameter to just keep track of which direction our player is looking. So let's make a private, it doesn't need to be public as well. So this will be bool, and we can call this something like facing. Let's call it facing right, and let's close that up with semicolon. And we also need one more variable to just keep track of that which direction we going, or this player which direction this player is going, like left and right. So we're gonna make a another private parameter. So let's move over to our script. Let's make a private, and this will be float, and we're gonna call this one something like movement, or let's call it move. Let's simply call it move. And now we're gonna move over to this start function. So this start function get called in the start of the game. In the start of the game, what we have to do, we're gonna set is dashing equal to false, equal to false. Why? Because in the start of the game we're not gonna dash at all. We only want to dash if we just press down any specific key, that's why. And also we're gonna set facing right equal to true. Why? If we move over to Unity, as you can notice, our player game object is looking to the right direction. So that's why we just set in the start of the game facing right parameter to true. And now we're gonna press down Ctrl S in order to save our script. And now let's move over to Unity, and we need to assign. So for, underneath our player dash script, two field just gonna pop up as we made it public, as we made already them public. So that's why. So firstly, our RV field just gonna pop up. So we need to take our rigid body 2D, and we need to drag it over to our RV field that we created. So we're gonna have the rigid body 2D reference as well as the dash duration we can adjust underneath our player dash script. So that's why we just made that also a public field. and we're gonna use that move parameter to just keep track of which direction we going. So as you can see, dash duration by default we set zero point 0.3 and RB, and it says non rigid body. So we're gonna take our rigid body and drag it over to that slot. Sorry, and make sure you add your rigid body to your player game object, else it's not gonna work at all. So we're gonna take our rigid body, let's drag it over to that field, and now open up player dash escape by double clicking on it. And now what we're gonna do, we gonna make a function in order to dash. But before we dash, we just want to check which direction we're going. So we're gonna use this move parameter in order to check that. But before we check, let's check for some input. So we're gonna use this input dot get axis raw, and then make this first bracket. So since we want to we want to do it horizontally or x-axis, so that's why inside in between these brackets, in quotation, we're gonna pass horizontal. So we're gonna pass horizontal, and we're gonna close that up with semicolon. So this function right over here, input dot get axis raw, it's gonna check if we, let's suppose if we press down D key, then it's gonna give us 1. Basically means this player is like moving to the right direction. And let's suppose if we press down A key, then this input dot get axis raw, it's gonna give us -1. -1. So basically means we just moving to the left direction. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna store the result into this move parameter, which can be -1, +1, or 0 if we don't hold down any key like A and D key. If we just lift our finger from A and D key, then input dot get axis raw function right over here, it's gonna give 0. So we will store the result into this move parameter to just keep track of which key we holding down or which direction we simply going. So we're gonna set move equal to this. And now what we're gonna do after doing that, we're gonna we can check that if we basically we can check that which direction we going. So we're going to use this if condition. Let's make first bracket and some curly brackets. And what we want to check over here, we basically want to check if move is greater than 0f. 0f, and we do know that if move is greater than 0f, basically means that that we going to the right direction. And we do know that this input dot get axis raw, it's gonna check, let's suppose if we press down D key, then it's gonna keep us 1, and we storing into this move. So this move right over here, it's gonna be 1. So and we do know that this move is now 1, and 1 is definitely greater than 0. Basically means we just moving to the right direction. So in that moment, what we need to do, we need to set this facing right to true. So that's why we're gonna set facing right equal to true. Else if our movement is lesser than 0f, basically means we moving to the left direction. So in that situation, we need to flip this player game object to the left direction. So basically we need to set our facing right to false. Facing right equal to false. Basically let's do it in else if condition. Else if our move, so we're gonna check if our move is lesser than 0f, basically means we just moving to the left direction, that in that moment we just setting facing right to false. Why? Because if we flip this enemy or this enemy if this player game object is going to the left direction, then we need to set this facing right parameter to false. Why? Because this player will no longer able to look to the right direction. So that's why. So now we have done this thing, and we're gonna make a function for to dash. But before we basically just gonna go to top of our class, and we're gonna use system dot collection. Basically we're gonna use a I enumerator function, and that function just gonna delays some code. So some period of time we just want to dash, and after that amount of time we don't want to dash. So that's why basically we're gonna use I enumerator, which just gonna delays our code. So we need to use this using system.collection. So just go to top of your class and make sure you include this namespace. It's called using system.collection. And after doing that, we're gonna move over to script in the bottom. We're gonna make that function, and we need to use this I enumerator. So you need to use like this, and you have to name it what you want to name. So I'm gonna call something like dash, and let's make first bracket and some curly brackets. It's kind of bit weird, but we have to use that. So what we want to do, so over here we basically want to dash, and after some period of a time we don't want to dash at all. So we need to use this yell return return new wait 4 seconds, wait 4 seconds, and then make this first bracket, then close that up with semicolon, and you need to put the time right over here. So after this amount of time you can do whatever you want to do. So after this amount of time I don't want to dash at all, so that's why yell return new wait for second. Inside these brackets I'm gonna pass this dash duration. So after this much of dash duration I don't want to dash, so that's why in these brackets we're gonna pass this dash duration. Sorry, it should be dash duration. And we need to set the velocity. Firstly I'm gonna set is dashing to true. Why? Because this dash function just gonna dash our player. Means we just gonna dash, so that's why is dashing I'm gonna set equal to true because we're gonna dash. And after that we need to set the velocity in the x-axis. So we're gonna use this rb dot linear velocity. So we need to use this rb dot linear velocity. Basically we just going over to this rigid body 2D component of this player game object, and then what we're gonna do, we're gonna set that, we're gonna set that equal to uh, equal to equal to new vector 2, because this rb dot linear velocity it's gonna have x-axis and y-axis. So that's why we just set equal to a new vector 2. It's gonna have x-axis and y-axis. So since we don't want to don't want to dash in the y-axis, so that's why we're gonna put 0f in the y, and we do want to dash in the x-axis or horizontally. So that's why in the x we're gonna put some value. But before we do, let's create a parameter for our dash force. So we will go to top of our class and let's make another variable for our dash force. So let's make a public float, and we're gonna call this one dash force, and by default I'm gonna set equal to something like 15f, and let's close that up with semicolon. So in the x now I'm gonna set dash force. But before we add the velocity, we need to check which direction we're giving. Basically we need to multiply this dash force with our direction. So we're going to create a float parameter right over here, float, and we can call this one something like dash direction, or let's call it dash direct sorry dash okay, so let's call it dash direction, and let's close that up with semicolon. And this dash direction right over here we just created to just keep track of which direction we going. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna check if facing right. So we will check if facing right is true. Facing right is true basically means we just going to the right direction. So in that moment we need to set the dash direction 1. So our player just gonna dash in the right direction. So that's why if our player game object facing right, basically just looking to the right direction. So in that moment I'm gonna set this dash direction sorry we're gonna set our dash direction equal to 1f. Let's suppose if we not facing to the right direction, basically we just going to the left direction. So else if our player game object it's not looking to the right direction, then we're gonna set our dash direction equal to minus 1f, because minus 1f, because we just moving to the left direction, or this player is just looking to the left direction. So in that moment we need to add the dash force to the negative side or to the left direction. So that's why. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna multiply this dash direction that we created out here to just keep track of which direction we just facing. Then we're gonna multiply this dash force with our dash direction. So let's multiply with our dash direction. So dash force, so let's suppose we move to the right direction, then this dash direction, it's gonna be 1. As you can see, if we looking to the right direction, then we setting dash direction to 1, as you can notice right over here. So this direction, dash direction over here getting 1, and this dash force is 15. So 15 into 1 just gonna be 15, means our player velocity in the x-axis in the right side, or in the x-axis to the right side, it's just gonna be something like 15. And I hope you get the idea. And after this amount of dash duration, what we want to do, we're gonna set our dash is dashing to false. Why? We're not gonna dash at all after this dash duration. So I'm gonna set back is dashing sorry is dashing, we're gonna set is dashing equal to, because we're not gonna dash at all. And the second thing, we need to set our velocity. So we will go to RB, basically we're just going over to rigid body, and we're gonna set the linear velocity equal to vector2 dot 0, vector2 dot 0, and let's close that up with semicolon. So this vector2 dot 0 basically means x in the 0 and y in the 0. X in the 0 and y in the 0 basically means this player game object not gonna dash at all. Basically it will stop and it's gonna fall down due to our gravity, as you can notice right over here. So after this much of dash duration, our linear velocity just gonna be 0 in the x as well as 0 in the y, means it's not gonna dash at all. So we also need to call is dash function, but when we need to call it, once we're gonna press down space key or some specific key you can check with. So I'm gonna move over to my update function, and over here what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna check for left mouse button. If I just click the left mouse button, then I want to dash. So we're gonna use this if condition. Let's make first bracket and some curly brackets, and what we want to check over here, we basically want to check if input dot get mouse button down, and I'm gonna make this first brackets. And you can check with any key you like. You can use input dot get key, then you can pass the key code something like space, it's up to you. So I'm gonna check for left mouse button, so I'm gonna pass 0. At the same time I'm gonna check if dashing is false, basically means we not dashing. So if we click the left mouse button and if we not dashing, then we want to dash. So that's why as a second condition I'm gonna check is dashing is false. You can just put exclamation marks, basically means false, or you can simply do is dashing equals to false. It's basically means the same thing. Then what we want to do, we want to dash. So basically we need to call this dash function in order to dash it. And in order to call this dash function, and this dash is a I enumerator function, so what we have to do, we need to use this start coroutine, and then we need to make this bracket, and inside this bracket we need to call the function, because since this dash function is a I enumerator, so that's why we need to use this start coroutine, and inside this bracket we need to pass the function name, which is dash. So we're going to pass that dash and then make this first bracket and then close that up with semicolon. So firstly use this start coroutine, and inside this bracket you need to call the function which is dash. So whenever we're gonna click left mouse button, at the same time if we not dashing, then what we're doing, we're just calling the dash function. And dash function, firstly we setting is dashing to true, basically means we dashing, and we just created this dash direction to just calculate which direction our player is facing. If it's facing to the right direction, then we're setting dash direction to 1. If we're facing to the left direction, then we're setting this dash direction to -1. And then we going over to rigid body linear velocity, and we're setting equal to dash force in the x-axis dash force, and we multiplying with the direction, so we can just move over to that direction, or we can just dash in that direction. and we don't want to do at all in the y, so that's why we just put 0 in the y. And I yelled return new wait for second. Basically we need to use this in order to do some specific things after some period of time. So after this dash duration is over, then we just setting is dashing to false, and then we setting the velocity of that rigid body in the x and y to 0 0. So we're not gonna dash or at all. Now we're gonna press down Control S to save my script, and now let's move over to Unity, and we will notice that. So just wait for a little moment, and whenever we're gonna click the left mouse button, you will able to notice our player game object just gonna dash in the direction player is going. If the player is facing to the right direction, then our player game object just gonna dash to the right direction. If our player facing to the left direction, then our dash, if we dash, then we will move, we basically gonna dash to the left direction. So now as you can notice, the player just compiles, and if I just go ahead and then click on this play button in the top in order to play my game, you will notice that as soon as we click the left mouse button, at the same time we just checking if we not dashing. So now if I just press down sorry, as you can notice that if we click the left mouse button, we can notice it's dashing and it's pretty fine, but it's falling down due to our gravity. So we need to set the gravity scale to 0. So if I get out of play mode, then select the player game object in the hierarchy, then go over to inspector rigid body 2D. As you can see, the gravity scale we set to 5. So when we dashing, we need to set it to 0, and once the dash duration is over, means the dash is over, then we're gonna set the gravity scale back to our 5. So we will go to our script. So over here we dashing, so when we dashing, we just want to set the gravity scale to 0. So we will go to our rigid body 2D, sorry, rigid body 2D. So basically means we're gonna go to rb dot rb dot gravity scale. Basically we just accessing that gravity scale, and we're gonna set equal to 0f, because we dashing right over as you can see. And after dashing, as you can notice, dash duration is over now, then we just setting back our is dashing to false, as well as gravity velocity to 0. So we also need to set back our gravity scale back to our 5, because the dash duration is over. So we will go to rb dot gravity scale, and now we're gonna set back to 5f as we seen, and then close that up with semicolon. And if we press down space key on our keyboard in order to save, and then move over to Unity editor, you will notice that now when we are dashing, this player game object not gonna fall down, because when we dashing, we just setting gravity is equal to 0, and once our dash duration is over, then we just setting back gravity scale to 5. So it's gonna fall down once our dash duration is over. So now if I just go ahead and then click on this play button in the top in order to play my game, you will notice that. And we can check that out by selecting our rigid body 2D component in the inspector, and make sure you select your player game object in the hierarchy before you do that. So now so just wait. So if I click the left mouse button, as you can see, when we dashing, we not falling down at all, falling down at all in the y-axis, because we just setting when we dashing, we just setting gravity is equal to 0. So if I select my player game object in the hierarchy, then move over to inspector, then rigid body 2D, as you can see gravity is equal to 0, you can notice that whenever we're gonna dash, we can see we setting the gravity scale to 0, and once the dash is over, then it's just setting back to 5, as you can notice in the rigid body 2D in the inspector. So I hope you get the idea that how you can make the dash. And in the start of the game, we just setting is dashing to false. So if I get out of play mode, then move over to my script, As you can see in the start of the game, we just is dashing setting to false, because in the start of the game we're not gonna dash at all, so that's why is dashing we just setting equal to false. As well, we just facing set the facing right to true, because we just gonna look to the right direction, so that's why. So before you do, make sure you just use basically set that in the start of the game, and we just use this move parameter right over here in order to keep track of which direction we going. If we going to the right direction, then we setting facing right to true, and if we moving to the left direction, then we just setting facing right to false, because in that moment we not gonna look to the right direction at all. And if we click the left mouse button at the same time, if we not dashing, then we are dashing. As you can see, we calling this function this dash function, and this dash function basically doing these things. I hope you get the idea of this. And lastly, thanks for watching this video. I will see you in the next tutorial. So goodbye for now.